the topic that I picked, I don't know, I tried to trace its history and why I was interested in this. It deals with maps, human beings as living maps of territories that we frequently overlook, don't see, have no consciousness of. I think when I was in high school and I was competing in some sports, I found out afterwards that some of the people I was competing against were on performance enhancing drugs. And that was disappointing to me at the time. And then it became more and more common that this type of thing is a possible violation. It surfaced again when I was a grad student at San Francisco State, where one of my professors said, when you're talking to some of these people, a lot of them are on drugs, recreational drugs. So take that into account. And I thought, I wasn't familiar with this at all. It was a new thing to me. And then again, several years later, I had Marie Nichols as the advisor, my dissertation advisor. And Ralph Nichols, her husband, had, I think it was Parkinson's, and she had to give him drugs, and the drugs would give him delusions of grandeur. And she would warn me. She says, he when he's on these drugs, he thinks he is capable of doing all kinds of things he wasn't capable of doing when he was in his 20s. You know, strength, taking care of loudmouth people, and so on. And she also had surgeries that she eventually died during the surgery for lungs. But this kind of was the historical background for what got me interested. Boris, who talked earlier, mentioned what's real, and I think this is what's behind this. We know from digital dating, a number of people put a totally false picture up, and they lure the person to go out with them, and then when the person meets them, they go, "Gee, you're not 6'2" and blonde haired. You're this height with a bald head," and so on. So I'll get on with this. The subtopic I'm dealing with is transformations, symbolic transformations through human forms, and all the different things available to us now in 2020. But some have been around for centuries. And one of the things I'm looking at is, will the real body and face in action please step forward? Some people want to return to a so-called normal stance of appearance and behavior, and some people want to escape from that and become highly individuated, different. So one of the things I want to stress in this is, if you take an evidence-based or extensional approach to this, you're always looking to see what's going on beneath the surface here. And I credit a lot of this symbolic transformation to the writings of Suzanne Langer, who also credits Kassir and Whitehead. And I've encountered it with Hayakawa as well, Korzybski, and Charles Morris. So enough of that. The other person I always thought was noble about this was Phyllis Diller, the comedian. She would joke about her physicality and her limitations. And she would, I was raised with the tall poppy syndrome. You know, if you have to humble yourself, because if you don't, someone else is going to do it. So it was a type of Jantelov in the Scandinavian countries. But she had this tall poppy syndrome that she capitalized on and became very popular as a comedian. I also remember seeing Cher do this during her, she for a long time was the model for Chicago Health Club. And she would then say afterwards, well, you know, this face cost me this and this cost me that. So that the point is, what we're looking at is sometimes real different. There are, I'm living in a town in Panhandle of Idaho where during the warm weather, and there's quite a few months of warm weather, you see tattoos galore because people are exposed, they're wearing shorts, they're wearing flip-flops, men and women. And many of them, if you were to see them in the winter, you wouldn't know they had any tattoos, but you see them in the exposed months and there's tattoos everywhere. Now, some people get the tattoos right up their neck and onto their face. And of course, they're not covered even in the winter unless they're wearing a turtleneck or something. But these are just minor things in comparison to all the activities that some people take part in. Now, I have a list of some things here: clothing, beards. Beards in the Northwest are quite popular with men. Ear piercing, nail growth, branding, labia stretching, ear shaping and cropping, something's called elfing. And then you'll see occasional people with teeth blackening, especially around Halloween, and teeth sharpening, but there's also tongue splitting. Now, I'll show you eventually. I'm watching my time carefully, but some photos are graphic. I've ruled out as much as I could really scary photos. I worked for an ophthalmologist for a year in Texas. And one of the patients came in one day with a black eye patch on. And I thought, oh, well, he must have one eye, the other one's giving him trouble. Well, he had two eyes, but he had a pterygium, like from the telltale heart. And he was so self-conscious of it, he would rather go around with the patch on his eye than have people see him with this pterygium covering the eye. And he was a very good-looking guy. So after the surgery, it was tear-jerking. It was a demanding job working for an ophthalmologist who was a surgeon. And it was emotionally very challenging because people would come in nearly blind and walk out with vision again. Well, I watched his surgery, and I had no medical background. I just had to pick up what the doctor would tell me. And afterwards, the pterygium was gone. His brother came in the room. There were tears. He says, "You're handsome again." But there's just so many things that are below the surface right now that we don't see. So this is what I'm talking about is kind of a biological basis for looking to see what's going on with the other person you're addressing. I'm going to go to the next slide here. There's a number of things that go on. Bodybuilding is known even before Arnold Schwarzenegger in films. And of course, The Rock right now is still a dominant screen presence. So you're looking at extreme proportions and differences. Some want to stress size, some want to stress muscularity. In martial arts, you'll see, you won't see it at first, but some people have battered their shins into very strong weapons. They can break baseball bats with their shins. My son was a professional Muay Thai fighter for about 6 years. He lived and fought out of Japan. And he says, in the last fight he had, he and the fellow whacked shins together. He says the sounded like two bats coming together. He says, but we're so conditioned it didn't knock either of us down. So, yeah, but you'll also get some schools who will toughen internal organs where they punch at the stomachs. They even will punch throats and groins. Now, they're at another end of radical type modifications. You get transsexualism. And I have these coded by green and brown. The green codings are men to women, Christine Jorgensen being an early one. And then the brown ones are men to women, Chaz Bono, Philippe Cunningham, and so on. Now, modern medical body transformations, I use transfiguration and transmogrification as extremes. So the transfiguration would be going towards beautifying by human standards, and the transmogrification would be going towards a scary direction, and deliberately so, okay? But all these surgeries come into play when you're talking to somebody. You know, you might have somebody who had oral surgery. They might have had a philtrum that was removed from their mouth. Some have had terrible teeth formations, so they've had dental braces to correct it. And then, of course, if you had an accident, you might have had something like someone mentioned motorcycle earlier, no helmets versus helmets. Yeah, if you bang into something off of a motorcycle, you could have an ocular blowout, and then you have plastic surgery all around the face. And you had someone talking to you who doesn't even see it. And of course, you don't say, oh, by the way, did you notice my my optic surgery. No, of course I'm not. The I knew I worked with a woman in Georgia who was her father was in a concentration camp, and she called my attention dramatically to the fact that her father had stressed to her, most people, if they have some scary feature, he says, you look at it for a minute or two and it then becomes background. And I said, yeah, most of the times that's true. Some of the pictures, though, that I chose not to show you, they're not that way. I had nightmares from a couple of them because the growths are so enormous, they're frightening. And I wouldn't show them to a child. I'd show them to somebody like maybe a dermatologist who specializes in this kind of thing. But then there's other things that you're talking to a person and they've had bypass surgery, they've had pacemakers, they've had stents, had a nose job, and not necessarily to improve the appearance, but maybe they have a deviated septum. All these things go on. I've worked with a couple people who were, my best man had bariatric surgery. He was 410 pounds. And then I didn't see him for a couple of years. We worked together. I went away for a couple of years. When I returned, he was 225 pounds. And I walked right past him. He said, Richard, it's MC. Say hello. I said, what? I couldn't even imagine. It was the same fellow. And also there's pharmaceuticals galore available, human growth hormone. And of course, everyone is aware of sildenafil or Viagra for erectile dysfunction, but some people use it for athletic performance as well. Then there's body nullifications. People have these parts removed. Everything from penis, testicles, clitoris to nipples. Sometimes people who desire a body nullification may be diagnosed with gender dysphoria or something else. Briefly, I knew a man in Chicago who was in transition from Chicago to a woman, and he said he just couldn't at times endure the genitalia, and then eventually he did go through a total nullification of maleness to become a female. And a woman I met in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho here, she had a very large nose and very twisted teeth, and she nullified those by going through a lot of surgery for the nose and also oral surgery to make herself more transfigured rather than living with that condition. There's also these modern technologies. There's smart tattoos. They can be used to signal things like diabetes or changes in your body. And then there's also the extreme things of castration. We have in Italy the I castrati, who were able to sing beautifully the rest of their life, but they couldn't enjoy love life. Circumcision, female circumcision, of course. And now there's also drugs, of course, for sex drive reduction, and there's also now robotic surgery. Last thing I'll mention here, let me see. Body transfigurations, transmogrifications. Tons of literature on this historically, from Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, the Hulk, the $6 Million Man. I liked in Cats, the Transfiguration of Grisabella. And of course, we have in religion, we have Moses with the radiant face, the Transfiguration of Jesus, and so on. Kafka's Metamorphosis. And let's not forget Popeye, who when he would eat spinach would get these enlarged forearms. And of course, Mystique, whom I see as one of the top X people, because she could change forms instantly. And then this one, chemicals galore to improve a smell, artifacts like paraphernalia, guns you're carrying, guitars you're carrying, and so on. Time will force me into some pictures. Here's some costuming. This is from a powwow I went to here in Coeur d'Alene, Crazy Crow. Here's a scholar in his garb, and there's, of course, Wonder Woman. Over here we have some functional costuming, because costuming is part of this. I think these were somewhere in Croatia, but I'm not sure. And here's somebody going into the water for deep sea diving. We have two people here. This is a Mennonite woman in a very plain garb, makeup. And here we have Cher, made up galore. We have some people here. We have skateboards as part of it, ice cream, two kids. We have the mic, which is symbolic of all the power, a cello, and so on. With bodies, we have lean and functional body transformations. This is Ryan Reynolds here, and this is Tony Sansoni, a long time ago bodybuilder, very lean. And these are two massive people. This is Sergio Oliva to the left and Bill Pearl to the right, both Mr. Universe winners. Over here we have women, lean and functional. This is a model, a fitness model. This is someone named, I would say, the Peg they used to call her, and a ballet dancer. But then we also have massive female bodybuilders on steroids and who knows what else. And these are two women. Over here we have transformations with synthol injections, which are quite scary to most people. And this is called sometimes reverse anorexia, bigorexia, and so on, because this person sees this as a transfiguration, whereas a number of people might see it as a transmogrification. Over here we have some body painting. I liked American Indians, a lot of times did not tattoo, they changed body paintings. A friend of mine by the name of Sly Fox is Apache, and he gave me a whole book on body painting for healing, for warfare, for dancing, and so on. And some of this luminescent paint is also used for functional medical purposes. And of course, we have some henna tattooing. Over here, we have holistic transformations, prostheses. You see a lot of these with war veterans and hip, knee surgery. A friend of mine I worked with in Grand Forks had 2 knee replacements. And of course, he doesn't advertise this, it's just there. Here we have some extreme body modifications with the ears and with elongation of the skull. But China had the practice of binding hands and feet as well. Over here, and some more split tongue. And I thought I would put this in. I had to put this note in. This woman had this branded on her. It's the Euler's identity. It's named after Swiss mathematician Leonard Euler. It's considered to be the exemplar of mathematical beauty. She had this tattooed on her back. Over here we have 2 transsexuals. They're both politicians. This woman was one time a man, and this man one time was a woman. A little humor at the end here. Let us remember this transformative possibility. When we're reincarnating, I'll be right back, so don't touch my stuff. I've talked with people who studied reincarnation from Hinduism and Buddhism, and they were from the West. And they said as they got older, they got nervous because they thought, my goodness, I'm finding myself looking at women and thinking, is this a womb I want to come through in my next life? A very different perspective from somebody born and raised in that culture. Your takeaway idea is this: analyze your body and behavior to determine how much is totally natural and real, and how much is a result of surgery, medication, exercise, etc. And try to determine how much of others is natural and how much is symbolic transformation. Thank you.